some of you who are already in the room, we have 3 presenters today. And you have about 4 minutes each to do a presentation. And hopefully afterwards, we will have a very interesting and fruitful discussion. So what this theme or this topic should be about today is when we look into the engineering workplaces, we see that they are requiring more generic competences for students, employable competences, such as problem-solving skills and teamwork, transversal skills. We also see that there is an interest for collaboration with industries on both on students' project, but also other sort of collaborations. But today, the presenters will have presentations about interdisciplinarity, and we will also have something about company projects where students are working together with companies. And the last presentation would be looking into managers' perception on different teaching approaches, the project-based approach and a more traditional approach. So I don't know about this, if this session is recorded. Do you record it, Nikolai? Okay, because we need to also have make sure that this is okay. So before I welcome the first presenter, I want to encourage you to ask questions in the chat, and then hopefully we'll have this very interesting discussion. When all 3 presenters has had the presentation, that's where we will have the plenary discussion. So the first presenter of the day is with the title, Not in My Backyard. It's dealing with challenges of public participation in industrial and infrastructure projects in an engineering education course. And it's presented, I think here it says it's presented by Uta Berry, and you are from Ruhr University in Bochum in Germany. So please, I think you have a pre-recorded presentation. So Nikolai, could you please play the recording? Thank you.
We welcome you to the presentation on dealing with challenges of public participation in industrial and infrastructure projects in an engineering education course. My name is Magdalena Lohn, and I'm here with my colleague Ute Berbür, and we're from Ruhr University. A future-oriented engineering education should enable students to play a constructive role in interdisciplinary teams to contribute to the solution of complex problems and to drive innovation. Teaching should accordingly be designed to explicitly promote personal and social competences such as communication and teamwork skills. In the course we are presenting here, we have chosen the topic of public participation to promote these competences and to professionalize students in dealing with societal challenges. In practice, engineers are increasingly confronted with acceptance problems, especially when working in the field of the construction or redesign of infrastructure. Finding viable solutions and achieving acceptance, on the other hand, remains a task for society as a whole. In Germany, as in many other countries, there are increasingly massive disputes about the realization of industrial and infrastructure projects, as you can see in these exemplary pictures. For this course, we have chosen problem-based learning according to the 7-step method, also known as Maastricht model, as the teaching method. In order to establish the practical relevance, the course was designed and implemented in cooperation with the largest German professional association for engineers, the VDI. The VDI Guideline 7000, Early Public Participation in Industrial and Infrastructure Projects, was used as a content reference in the event. We also incorporated different perspectives from the doing of public participation into the course through presentations by external speakers from many different sectors and fields. The basic structure of the course is visualized in this diagram. You can see the weekly tutorial session dates in which the PBL case processing takes place, as symbolized by the green circles. Parallel to the PBL sessions, there are alternating impulses from the external lecturers and from us, the coordinators. After about half of the semester, a block seminar is held in which the methods taught are tested in a simulation game and acted out in prototypical communication situations of public participation processes. For this purpose, we conduct conversation simulations. You may be surprised that we do not attend real panel discussions or accompany a real participation process. We have very consciously chosen paper cases and the role-play setting. This puts the focus on the process and not on the solution. In such complex situations where different positions and goals clash, there cannot be one solution. It is important to us that the students learn to analyze such complex situations and to deal with them in a professional manner. Joint reflection is immensely important for this. That is why we have increased the original 2-week processing rhythm of PBL cases to 3 weeks and also included a joint reflection of the analysis and solution approaches. Another important point are the conversation simulations. There, the students have a safe space and can also try out different roles. All in all, this promotes a deeper understanding and a conscious development of competences. We look forward to a lively discussion and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and I didn't see any questions in the chat yet, but you have time to add some while we go on. I think that we are ready for the second presentation, and it has the title of PBL to foster integration of company projects in engineering curriculum. It's a case study and it's presented by Maddie Germandia, and you are from UPV in Spain. So please, Maddie, you're ready to do your presentation?
Yes, thank you. The paper I'm about to present is a joint collaboration between the University of the Basque Country and the Aalborg University. The Faculty of Engineering of Gipuzkoa, that's the faculty I come from, has recently committed itself to an educational model on university and industry collaboration. The model includes two different types of strategies to involve the companies in the engineering programs and students' learning. First, training in the company or internship, which is the most common one. And the second strategy is what the Faculty of Engineering of Gipuzkoa calls projects in collaboration with companies, or PCCs. The PCCs arise to answer the question, how can universities offer engineering students workplace learning experiences throughout their education? This PCC methodology is an adaptation of a PBL, and the company takes a role which is really important, and the emphasis would be in the moments where the company should interact or should be there for revision or evaluation. The Faculty of Engineering of Gipuzkoa decided to pilot this PCC model in the degree of civil engineering. It has to be decided the most appropriate moments for company collaboration and the level of interaction with the students. In our faculty, there was little experience in working with PBL, so that's why the implementation needed some support. In the chart below, you can see the implementation timeline. First of all, the faculty staff was invited to study this possibility of implementing this model in their courses. Then 3 training and reflection sessions were held in order to tutor each teaching team on the best way to adapt their courses to the methodology of PCC. And Also, an agreement was established with the Aalborg UNESCO Center for PBL, and a staff training course on PBL and integration in industry projects in curriculum was held in July 2019. Well, 2 surveys were undertaken to evaluate the first semester of implementation of this model. The first survey was a specific questionnaire which was distributed among students, and the results show that student satisfaction with his or her training improved significantly. Students give a more positive evaluation of all the activities carried out, the acquisition of transversal skills, the applicability of what was studied, as well as the contact with the professional world. The second survey is a standard course evaluation, which is carried out in all courses of the faculty every year. And the results here also show a significant improvement in the teaching process. This improvement is remarkable regarding student self-assessment and also learning assessment. In overall, students provide a positive evaluation to the course and are very satisfied with the development of the transversal skills and early contact with companies. The students' evaluation indicates we are moving in the right direction. However, these results also raise some questions or some aspects to consider. Is it really effective, this model, in the attraction and retention of students in the engineering programs, which was one of the aims of this? Or to what level does this PCC model strengthen university industry collaboration and promotes the addressing of social and professional challenges? From the staff development perspective, the process needs to continue internally, not only to engage more academic staff towards a more systemic integration of PCC, but to also develop a community of practices for mutual support and learning. This university-company collaboration can also be very time-consuming for companies and company instructors. So strategies to foster this type of collaboration are also needed. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Madi, for your presentation. We will come back to that also with questions. So we move on to our third and last presenter of today. And we have a presentation with the title of Industry Perspective on Project-Based Learning, comparing Chinese managers overseas with Chinese engineering managers at home. And it's by Professor Martin Jäger from Australian College in Kuwait. So please, Martin Jäger.
Of a study titled Industry Perspective on Project-Based Learning, and it's based on the perspectives of Chinese managers overseas versus managers at home in China. My name is Martin, and this study was carried out in collaboration with Gang Yu and Desmond Adair. Basis for this study were the 16 competency elements of Engineers Australia, and the main message from this study is Chinese managers at home perceive a higher effectiveness of project-based learning than managers overseas. Chinese managers working at home perceived 14 of these 16 competency elements to be developed more effectively by project-based learning than by traditional learning, whereas managers overseas saw this higher effectiveness of project-based learning only regarding 2 competency elements, basically number 3, in-depth understanding of specialist knowledge, and number 13, creative, innovative, and proactive demeanor. These Chinese managers are sending messages to the PBL community. The first message is include sufficiently the theoretical basis of project tasks. And this came from all managers at home and abroad. The second message is project-based learning is more effective than traditional learning in developing most competency elements. Especially the managers at home agreed on this point. The third message is include students of diverse backgrounds and experiences in project-based learning projects in order to develop their discernment of current knowledge in a cross-cultural setting. And that was a point emphasized by managers overseas. And the last one, the last message sent by Chinese managers, and again, it's a message sent by the managers overseas, aim more at the ability to use alternative design standards and codes than focusing exclusively on the design standards used at home. A point for discussion: should it be mandatory for project-based learning facilitators to have sufficient cross-cultural industry experience? So not only industry experience at home, but also in different cultures. And with that point for discussion, I'm coming to an end of this quick summary, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for your presentations. And I hope that you now have some questions for the presenters. Very interesting presentations. I think you're also welcome to open your microphone to ask your questions if that's more convenient for you. Because I don't think we are that many in the room, so I think it would also be possible, because I have a little bit of problems with my chat.
Can I?
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I have a point for Madi. I'm Vincenzo Liso. I'm associate professor in Denmark at Aalborg University. So I come from an engineering background too. So regarding what you said, that it should be a win-win cooperation with the companies. We, in the context of program-based learning, where I come from in Aalborg, the agreement that we usually receive a positive response from the companies is that they get some work, a nice work developed by the students. Mm-hmm. So they can benefit from their feedback, and also from their during their project they can provide some maybe like do some tests or doing some models that they don't have the time to do it in the, or that some fundamental studies they don't have the time to do in the company. Whereas the students, they get the experience to interact with the company. So there is a like a win-win deal with companies, for what I can say.
Yeah, thank you, Vincenzo. Yeah, I understand that, and that's the point. I mean, for us, we have implemented it in the civil engineering degree, which is just 4 years. And we are trying to do this since the second year. Mm-hmm. So it's been quite challenging to look for projects where a second year student can do anything which is useful for a company.
Yeah.
When they're in the fourth year or a master, then it's completely different. But in the second and third year, it's more you are asking for a favor to the company, more than, I mean, we've been working with the town hall, for example, who has lots of works going on, and they have shared, well, let's work in this project. When we share the project with the students, and they give some feedback on how the project could have been improved, for example. But this is the second year we've been running the PCC model, and it's one challenge. We know it's there. We are looking for other ways of making the companies get involved. they also win because they are working with the university, and that's also good for them. I mean, from a, I'm collaborate with the university. And that kind of publicity it's also good for them. But it's a challenge. I mean, but yes, I totally agree. The aim or the goal should be that we manage that the work of our students will be useful for the company. But it's not always easy. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know if that also was the answer to the question on how the company was selected.
Yeah. From Sarah. Yes. Yeah. It's more. Usually, what we do is we work with companies with which we already have some relationship, because of internships, or because we know they are colleagues of us, so we know who is this company and what he does or they do. So we usually, it's the professor, is the teacher who is in charge of looking for a company which fits the course or the subject he's teaching. And because our programs are quite specific, they're not really flexible, so we have the content of the courses. It's something we must do. So you have to look for a project which is compatible with your subject. And so the companies it's not so, you don't have so many options. I don't know so it's not, we don't ask a lot of companies to propose a project. It's more that we go to the company and say, we should need a project like that. Do you have something? Would you like to work with us? Would you like us to work on a project which is something like this? Do you have anything in your desk that could fit our students? And that's how we make the...
Okay, interesting. So do we have any more questions for Maddie? So we maybe keep them together.
I have another comment on.
Okay, another comment. Then go ahead, please.
We asked the company to propose themselves projects. So maybe in that case, they have they make the proposal themselves. They have more interest in getting answers from the students or from the university.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Maybe, Maddie, you could elaborate a little bit about the academic staff motivation for entering these collaboration with companies.
From the staff?
The academic staff, the motivation for the problem-based learning.
It's well, we have, like in any place, I guess, there are different, we have people very motivated, people not so much. So changes are always something, which involves time and work. And we had a quite nice response to this PCC model, and we engaged 6 courses. Okay, 6 courses out of 30, I would say, from the first year to the 4th. And we have been with these 6 teams working last year and this year, and we'll probably have a couple more because the dynamics are good, the results are good too. But well, we have this course for helping teachers to adapt the courses, because most of them were working with lecturers, and so it was not only engaging the company but also turning the course into a PBL course, which was like not only a little more of, I mean, you are already teaching with a PBL, you only have to think of how can I involve the company now and how can I do that interaction. But if you have a course which is lectures and and work home, then you have to change all the scheme. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just add a comment about this, if that's okay? When we actually did the training in San Sebastian, one of the things I sense is that, and correct me, Maddie, that if I'm wrong, some teachers actually have very good experiences starting the collaboration with companies, and they actually ask the company for one project, and suddenly the company would come with a lot and do more, please, for us. So they were very eager to do more with the university. And then others had a lot of difficulties to actually have the companies open for them. And that was one of the causes of frustration for them as well at the same time, because they had to deal with the course and making the changes and try to figure it out, how can I engage the company if the company is not taking me serious, not taking the students serious, is not willing to. So there was this some of mixed in building this collaboration there.
Yeah, it was very different. It was
I have another question for Maddie, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, please.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Maddie, my question is related to the preparation of students. Is there any specific preparation for these PCC courses that you prepare them for what is ahead of them? Because I can imagine that you also have students who just would like to finish their studies as quick as possible and as good as possible. And all the fuzziness and uncertainties of industry collaboration may affect their studies. So is there any way you prepare them regarding motivation or also regarding skills, or how does this look like?
Yeah, I think motivation is the key, because they are really eager to really know how their real professional work is going to be and how professional world is. So in that sense, telling them that there will be a company which is going to propose a project, and they will be receiving their feedback on their work. I think that's it's challenging, but it's really motivating for them. And in general, they really appreciate the effort, because I think they also realize that that's an effort that the staff is making and the professor is making. And in that sense, we don't have to prepare them. I mean, they are like, the first day of class, you tell them, okay, this is how we are going to work. This is how the project is going to be. This is the company we are going to work with. And usually the next day is the day when the company, someone from the company comes to class and presents themselves. So in that sense, no. They already do a lot of group work and presentations, and I mean, they are used to that already. It's more the PBL or the project-based learning thing that they are not so used to, and having someone from that side revising their work. But I think they really appreciate that. I mean, it's you can tell that sometimes they even prepare themselves for the presentations better if they know someone from the company is going to be there, because it's like, okay, this is not only my teacher, So, but we don't do anything special.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we should move on to a question for Martin Jever, if we have no more question right now from Maddie. I see that Annette is asking, who are the overseas managers?
Yes, that's a good
Actually,
question.
I'm asking for the whole design of your study, because maybe it's late afternoon for me, but it was a little bit hard for me to put in the context.
Yes. And of course, there's a challenge to summarize this in 3 to 4 minutes, or at least for me, that's a challenge. So the design is limited to managers of engineers. So what they all had in common was that they are managing.
In Kuwait, Martin?
And in China.
And in China.
Yes, so we compared, I think it was 109 managers of engineers in China. And then we had 52 managers of engineers, not only in Kuwait, but in the region, in the GCC region. So that's the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, which is basically Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia.
Did you have anything with the Chinese manager? Did you have anything to do with the Chinese manager?
Well, actually, you probably realize that one of the co-authors of our study is Chinese, and he's very active in the Engineering Association in China. So he has a lot of contacts there, and he took basically care of the data collection. Even the data collection in the GCC region was done by our Chinese collaborator. So what they had in common was they were all Chinese nationals. They were all managers of engineers, so which means the age was already a little bit higher and several years experience. And then responsibility for engineers working for them. Okay, so that's what they all had in common. The difference was the managers in China were at home dealing with projects within China, and the managers in the GCC region were dealing with projects abroad, outside China, basically in the GCC region. So that was the big difference. And the reason we were really interested in their perspectives is that having projects abroad, overseas, is adding challenges in general. Cross-cultural communication, different design standards, different regulations, etc. So that was the motivation for our study. And then the interesting finding was really to see that in general, the managers in China had a much more positive perspective of project-based learning than the managers outside China. So that was a very interesting finding. Of course, it has probably different reasons. One reason is that the managers outside China are not dealing that much with new graduates. So they are dealing more with more experienced engineers. So they don't really have many fresh graduates and don't really see how project-based learning is practiced during the last couple of years. Whereas the managers in China, they get fresh graduates on their projects and are probably closer to the current situation at universities in China, which obviously developed over the last couple of years a lot regarding project-based learning. So that might be one reason. Another reason is that the education, the engineering education in China is very much based on the standards used in China. And that was something the managers in the GCC region realized, that it actually would be helpful for projects overseas, not only to focus on their own standards, but also having a look at design standards and design codes that are used elsewhere on this planet in order to be better prepared for projects outside China. Now, projects outside China is a big thing for China, especially because of the One Road, One Belt project. So it's one of the major initiatives covering 3 continents, and especially the GCC region. So that's quite an interesting insight we got there. And I think for engineering education, this means in general, there is an encouraging trend in China regarding project-based learning. That's one thing, especially for PBL researchers. That might be an interesting insight and an interesting observation. But also,
the fact that in PBL we have a chance to develop these transitional skills and soft skills, if you like, much better than in traditional teaching. So that's probably something we should focus on even more, since the trend of globalization will not stop anytime soon. It's probably the other way around. So that's something project-based learning can provide. Now, this is related to a question I saw on the chat. The question, how did these managers actually know about project-based learning? How did we put them in a situation that they could compare with traditional teaching? So what we did was we provided a comparison to all interviewees, to all managers we interviewed. It was a very simplified graphic, actually, where we were comparing the three main aspects of project-based learning versus the three main aspects of traditional teaching, in order to have a comparable basis between the interviewees. Of course, managers are very busy people, so they would not have time for a 15-minute presentation about PBL. So we had to come up with this compromise and to summarize it, that we could explain the difference in just 1 or 2 minutes. And but this was helping us to have a comparable basis for all interviewees. And we asked them actually to evaluate the impact of project-based learning and traditional teaching on these 16 competencies based on the given comparison. So even if there was a manager who knew a little bit more about PBL, we told them, please stick to this comparison, so that we can compare actually all responses.
Okay.
I hope this helps a little bit, but it's definitely not replacing reading our paper.
Thank you so much. Any more questions for Martin Jäger? I see there is some question in the chat for Jutta and Magdalena. Do we have? I think Michael Alwe, is it more like a comment you have? Yeah. Nikolai, I don't know if you would ask your question, or should I read it out loud?
Well, I was just wondering about this, the phrase of you mentioned this safe space for to gain experience and try out different roles, and I was just I just stumbled upon the sort of it and what role it plays and how you facilitate it.
Okay, with safe place, you mean we are just in the course, just students and we lecturers are there, and we make a role play simulation. And in this course, the students had been a company leader or a project manager or just a normal citizen who say, oh, I do not want this bridge right in front of my window, or stuff like that. And we had defined roles, and they really made a conversation. And we mean safe space, that nobody else is watching from outside, only the course, and just make the experiences. How does it feel being a citizen in such situations, and try really communication competences, and how does it feel being confronted with somebody maybe who cries, or oh, I'm really upset, and this is something different, doing it in a safe group. Maybe Magdalena, you want to add something?
No, I think you summarized it perfectly. But I think what is clear is that it's really not easily available for students. It needs some encouragement, and they really need to feel the safe environment in order to open up and to really kind of get into the role also.
Maybe it's some in the other session there we talked about uncertainty and about not to know how to decide, or not to know how to react. And this in these little simulations, we play it a little bit, and it's another thing just to feel it only as or only reading about it. That's the reason why. And I think this little playing is a real good effect. There's something happens in the mind. I hope so.
Okay, thank you. I don't know, was wondering if there is a practical approach to overcome these challenges, is a question for you. Do company or public interest entities participate in this role play? Is it only the student, or is the company?
It's only the student, but one representative of the VDI, we are doing this in a double teaching way, who is very experienced in such situations, is in the course and give also a feedback on how they performed. But it's not like a judgment, oh, you did it good or you did it bad. Just it's more about really reflecting what is happening in such conversation settings and how can we handle it professionally. That's always the question we ask.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, how do you organize? How do you make the groups? It's interdisciplinarity. Groups, students with different background. How do they group up, and how do you facilitate this interdisciplinarity?
Well, the course is open for all disciplines in our university, and we spend a lot of time for building up the groups, and we have some rules that we say just try that not the same study themes are in one group. So we mix the group, and then we spend a lot of time in getting to know each other. They work together in the normal PBL. I say, if we have a paper case, they have to answer the questions, they discuss about it, and they know each other. And then we have special role cards for the simulation, and then they play with each other.
Okay.
Bente, if I can follow up with the questions. I think it's very interesting, actually, and it's a very good approach as preparation for something. And I wonder if actually the students, they take the initiative, or you actually, how is the timeline in this? For example, if you give the students the paper scenarios and then the roles beforehand, do they do some kind of preparation? What actually this preparation entails? Because if I was a student, I would probably be interested to actually go to the workplace and see with my own eyes and everything. So I wonder if you have what is the mix? What is the timeline here? If you could provide some inputs on that. Thank you.
Okay, this is a role play. We call it a seminar about 2 days. And we have some preparation before. They know the paper cases. They get to know the roles on the special day with a kind of card, and we focus on communication process. That I think that it's important thing that we use the cases for getting used to how can we handle a very conflicting situation in a professional manner. That's always the thing, and we take these examples. But the seminar with the simulation, it's 2 days.
May I just ask an additional question? This course, this seminar, is that a compulsory part, or is it an elective, or is it an activity outside the formal curriculum? Or how do you organize that in curriculum-wise?
It's an important question. It's elective, and they get 5 or 6 credit points. This depends on the settings in the curriculum, because it's interdisciplinary, and in engineering curriculum we have used to the modules about 6 credit points and the other have 5, but they all go in a testing and then get the credits, but there is this election.
Okay. Okay, and just another question. Do you have, because we are going in the direction of interdisciplinary PBL as well, and we have what we call the mega projects as something new, where the students, they go in and have discipline projects from different faculties and work on sustainability problems together. But the question for me is actually that I think we're looking into something totally new in how do these students collaborate across the disciplines. Do you have any good tools? Conflict management, we're doing a lot of that in our system as well, and we don't do it as role play, but we do it in different ways. But it's this, how do we open up this interdisciplinary cognitive understanding actually and collaboration? Do you have any good advice for that?
I don't know if it's a good, but I think we have some experiences that's on this level. Maybe it's when the students get to know each other and talking about each other, and there's sometimes so saying, oh, in my studies it's like this. Oh, you do it like this? We do it different. And this small conversations, I think they are very helpful because they get to know each other and the differences. We are not on a very high scientific level, but we are open somehow for other disciplines. That is not the whole part, but it's a tiny part or a tiny step we go. I think that is very important when they experience that the students, they're in the same university, but they are different in some manners, and this getting in experience, I think that is very important, and then we can go further.
Yes, I just want to add to that. Very often the students do not so much learn from the different culture, but in experiencing the difference, they learn to articulate themselves. They even gain consciousness of their own disciplines often, because they are not aware that this is an engineering way of thinking, or this is a problem-solving path that is not normal in other disciplines. So I think there is the point where they can really access a new understanding of themselves.
Okay. So I have a question. How do you manage learning outcome in this interdisciplinary study? Because is there an examination, or how do you manage, how do you evaluate the students' learning in this?
We have about 3 parts. First part is we have a so-called examination case. It's a PBL case, and the group has to do handle with it like they used to in the semester, and they have an oral presentation as a group, and they have to made a written comment personal. So we have a group judgment and a personal, and in addition, I talked about the engineers. They get 6 credit points. They have to write a little exam. I do not really like this exam because it's really just knowledge, but we need it for the acceptance in the curriculum as an engineering course. We are dealing there with the VDI-Richtlinie, and it's really engineering knowledge. So that are 3 parts. We have to. I'm not really lucky with it because it feels always like that's not really the thing I want to examine, but it's a kind of dealing with.
Okay, thank you so much.
I just want to say that at Aalborg University, we also assess things like this is, and I wouldn't like to call it soft skills or soft competences, Martin. I would actually like to call it very hard competences or whatever we call it. But we have group reflections, and these group reflections on project management, collaboration, conflict management, etc. And then we have individual reflections. And it's another taxonomy you have to build up for that kind of knowledge, actually, in order to assess it. And we are also in a process of developing that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Or I think that we have to wrap up the session. Is it some last comments to the presenters? No? Okay. Then maybe we should take an overview. What I have taken as a few notes from this session to take home with us is we see that the students, they are motivated for working together with companies. They are also motivated when we work in a group of this interdisciplinarity. I think what we maybe have to look more into is how do we organize it together with companies? So how do we make this a win-win situation for the companies also, if we want to have this continuously collaboration and continuously collaboration on company projects? So that might be something that still needs to have some research. Also, we heard from Kuwait that managers, they very much appreciate it was the project-based learning approach. And that they seem that hopefully that should be the future. So I don't know if we have any more comments, or we should close this session and say thank you for today. Is that it?
I would just have one small comment. Because one of the things I take also, and especially from the previous session and from this session, is actually the collaboration. And we are now very much on a digital level, but for interdisciplinarity is actually making students, talk about their own disciplines, make them together, and not expect they do things separately in silos, even though the intention is to be across disciplines, right? And the same is a little bit can also go for the companies. Is this overcome these barriers of what do I think about a company and what the company thinks about university or other institutions and everything. So I think that the collaboration here also has a strong point. How do we build it? How do we nurture it? How do we overcome barriers? How do we integrate different contexts and cultures as well to enrich it? So.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think that we have to look at it from a company perspective sometimes, these collaborations, because what's in it for the company? I think that we sometimes see that it's very, as we saw in Spain, it's very interesting and the companies are very eager to participate, but how does it look in 5 or 10 years? So we have to see what is the gain for the company, what is the learning for the employees in the company actually to join up in these projects and collaborate with students. So if we have more research on this in this area, I think that would be a sales speech for the university for companies to join these collaborations. So, but it's very interesting, and I hope that we can discuss this further some other time. And I think that we'll have to say thank you for now, and thank you so much for joining this webinar, and hope to see you all again. I don't know if we will see some of you this summer, or if we are allowed to travel, or how it's going to be. But otherwise, then we'll probably meet again in this virtual environment. Thank you so much for now, and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.